ters bo'lsa, ammo muayyan qadam bosqichlarni bossak, erk inimizdek yaxshi o'nishliq qabul qilingan sarkarda yigitlarimizningki tajribasini o'rgansak, shularning o'zimiz tatbiqlasak, albatta hammalarninki farzandlari boshqa orzusi bor yigit qizlar chuqur qila oladi deb ishonamiz. Shu maqsadda bu yangi faoliyatni o'rlashtirdik. Ondan keyin Stanfordniki yana bir yaxshi yeri, mush qabul qilinib bo'lgandan keyin shu odatda bu maktablarning iltimos qilish jarayoni bir sirliq tuyuldi-ku. Ular nimani muhim deb qaraydigandi, qanday gaplarni yozsak maqolamizga, qanday ishlarni o'tir maktabda qilsak yaxshi bo'ladigan deymiz. Ammo har xil xabar o'qisa, har xil gapni o'qisa, har xil o'xshamagan gap chiqadi bundan. Zodi shu admission officials, qanday officers, qanday narsalarni muhim deb qaraydi, ashdan nimani yuqori o'rin qo'yib, andan bir odamni qaror qabul qilish, qabul qilmas qarorini chiqardi deganga, biz ham sirtda bo'lgandan bilmasligimiz mumkin. Shuningda Stanforddagi maktablarning yaxshi yeri, shu qabul qilingan o'quvchilarga o qabul qilinib bo'lgandan keyin butun arxivini oshkorlab, o'xshamagan shu admission officerninki qanday baho yozg'ini, qanday narsaga muhim deb qarab, yuqori nomer bergini, nima sababdan qabul qilganligining hammasini butunlay o'quvchilarga oshkorlab bergan. Erik bu materiallarning hammani ko'rib, asli meni qabul qilganda manda narsalarni muhim deb qarab, shuni qabul qilib ekan deb bu insiders perspective bu faqat qabul qilingan odamlar ham bilalaydigan bir uchurlar. Mush uchurlarni hammalar bilan o'rtaq ham bahralanish uchun bugungi faoliyatni o'rinlashtirdik. Ondan keyin inimiz hamda qabul qilinib bo'lgandan keyin bu yil shu kuz mavsumida meningki darsimni o'qidi Stanfordda. Ondan keyin men shuning bilan bir mavsum dars o'tdim. Bu jarayonda ondan keyin Erikninki qabul qilinganligining sababini bakroq tushundim. Endi bu mayli darsga ifodasi bo'lsin, topshiriqlarni mushallaqa sifat jihatdan yozgan maqolalarning sifati, o'qigan maqolalarning sifati favqulodda yuqori. Endi Stanfordning o'quvchilari allaqachon shunda bir sarxil bolalarning ichida yana ashunda o'zini ko'rsatib, ashunda mangish bek ta'sirchi. Men shuni misol jiq so'zlab qoldim. Ikki bir misol so'zlab beray. Qanchalik yaxshi o'qiganligini, andan keyin butun sahnani Erikka beraman. Shu dars o'qiganda va odatda maqola yozishda bolalarga foydalanish materiali maqola sifatida bir ilmiy maqoladan bir qancha parcha o'qinglar deyman. Odatda ko'pincha shu scholarly article deymiz, ilmiy maqolalar 10 betdan 20 betgacha bo'ldi. Ko'pincha bolalar shu 10 betdan 20 betgacha maqoladan bir 5-6 parchani o'qib bir maqola yozdi hamda. Shuning bilan bir kuni topshirdi-ku, bu maqolalarni maqolani o'qidim deb topshirib uni ko'rma. Men qarasam Erikning topshirgan bir maqolasi 300 necha betlik turdi. Bir kitobda hamda. Shuni odatda bunda 300 necha betlikni topshirsa bolalar faqat 5 ga bira bobni introduction va dastlabki tunishtirish qismini, muqaddima qismini yoki o'zining maqolasiga munosabatlik bir qancha batlarni tanlab o'qiydi. Ammo ashta qilgan o'xshaydi deb eliqim maqolani ko'ryaptimi. Bu har bir batda zodi tafsili xotir qoldirib, maya mening maqolamga munosabatli ekan, mayani men foydalansam bo'ldi ekan deb 300 necha batlik maqolaning hammini to'liq shu xotirlab yezib chiqib, ondan keyin topshiribdi-ku. Men bundan bak ta'sirlandim. O bir dissertatsiya, doktorlik dissertatsiyasi ekan. Uni endi biz doktorlik shu PhD o'qiyotgandima, bir haftada bir ma'lum bir maqola o'qing desa, unda bir kitobni o'qib kelmaymiz odatda. Bu birinchi yillikda turib, mushta o'qiganligi meni bak ta'sirlantirdi. Endi qanchalik vaqt ketganligi ashunga, qanchalik kuch chiqarganda bir kitobni o'qib, tafsili mushta xotir qoldirsang, qanchalik vaqt ketgan ta'sirini men bilmayman. Shunga bak qattiq ta'sir qildi. Yana birsi eng oxirgi cho'ng maqola yozdi, bir 15 betlik ilmiy maqola yozdi bolalar. Bu maqola shunda yaxshi yozilgan, andan keyin bizning maktabda Stanfordda yaxshi maqola yozgan bolalarni o'qituvchilar tavsiya qilib, har bir sinfdan birdan bolalarni chiqaramiz. Har bir sinfda 15 bola va biz o'xshash darsni o'sha first year writing da, birinchi yillik yozuvchilik darsida bir 30 necha sinf bor. 30 necha sinfga dars o'tamiz. Ash sinfdan har bir sinfdan birdan maqolani tavsiya qilamiz. Ilg'or maqola bu maqolani men mukofotga tavsiya qilaman deb tavsiya qilamiz. 30 balning ichida buning maqolasi hozir 6 ning ichiga kirdi. Finalist bo'ldi desak bo'ldi. Anki 6 ning ichida hamda uni yana bir qatim baholab, uning birinchi, ikkinchi qilib baholaydi. Hamda mening qattiq ishonchim bor, ikkinchi ya birinchi, ikkinchi cho'qim bo'la oladi. Ammo uning natijasi keyingi mavsumning 5-haftada chiqadi, shuni bilmaymiz. Ammo bu 500 bolaning o'qiyotgan bolalarning ichidan 30 ning ichiga kirib, 30 ning ichidan 6 ga kirib, hozir ashari to'xtadi hamda 15 betlik maqola. Mushu ikki narsa hamda buning inimizdan qanchalik yaxshi, a'loch o'qiganligi va qanchalik o'zini beg'ishlaydiganligini ko'rsatib, shunlashqa mushundaq tajribalarni o'rtaq bahrlansak, hammalarga, farzandlarga, o'zimizga foydasi bo'larmi deb shu bugungi faoliyatni o'rlashtirdik. Onun yana birisi aniki Erik o'ziniki savoqdoshlarini sen qanday qabul qilingandan o'zingninki azroq qabul qilish jarayonini so'zlab bersang deb bir qancha savoqdoshlar bilan tanishib, shunlashqa bugungi bu yig'inning mazmuni faqat Erikning emas, yana boshqa bolalarning tajribasini mujassamlashtirilgan mushtaq bir uchur bahramon bo'lish uchurishi bo'ldi. Unda bo'lsa, boshqa gapni qo'yib, Erik inimizni so'zlashga taklif qilsak.
Rahmat Davka. Assalomu alaykum qarindoshlar, aka-ukalar, insonlar, yaxshimisizlar? Bugun men sizlarni bu yerda ko'rib xush bo'ldim. Rahmat sizlarga. Men tuanda asosliq Amerikadagi oliy maktablarga iltimos qilish to'g'risida so'zlayman. Shunlashqa men inglizchalam so'zlay. To'g'ri tushungaysizlar. Hi everyone, my name is Erik Rozi. I'm going to be speaking the rest of this talk in English just because we're going to be using a lot of terms that are relevant mostly towards American universities. So I feel that's more relevant for me and possibly some of the Uyghur youth who understand English more than Uyghur for me to speak English. And so just a brief introduction past what the amazing introduction that Mutalka gave me. I am currently a freshman at Stanford University. I am planning on studying computer science. Before that, I grew up in a normal household in Southern California. I went to a public high school, public middle school. And besides that, for high school, I was the valedictorian. I did have a few other extracurriculars, which I will talk about. But before going into that, I just wanted to talk about my experiences at Stanford. So even though Stanford has been online for the past quarter, for the past 10 weeks, there's still been so many things that have really shined from coming to Stanford. The first thing is just the wide amount of courses and opportunities there are. There's just so much to do. Like even if I'm online, there's still so many classes I can take. My freshman year, I even took an Uyghur language class at Stanford. That's how many courses are offered at Stanford. So I was able to go to Stanford, take Uyghur for a quarter, and have it count towards my requirements to graduate for university. So that's something that's very specific to Stanford itself. I think some school in Kentucky and Harvard, I believe, have Uyghur programs, but besides that, I'm not too familiar with any other Uyghur programs in the United States. So there's really a ton of opportunities at Stanford out there. There's so many internships, so much research, and really there's just so much stuff that you can do at Stanford, which is I am eternally grateful for this opportunity. Besides that, the professors are amazing. Matalka, or Dr. Anwar, was my English professor, actually. So he taught me English at Stanford, which is amazing considering that English is not his first language, and he did a phenomenal job teaching the course. So kudos to him. And besides that, the thing that really stood out to me the most is the student body. The student body at Stanford is really incredible. There's so many students that each bring their own unique perspectives and unique ideas that they brought from high school, unique activities, all that sort of thing. And they bring it and they really flourish it at Stanford. And this is true for any institution comparable to Stanford. It's really true for any university, but it's especially so for Stanford. There's just so many students who do so many crazy things. There's someone who discovered a planet, but he's a very nice guy. There's other people who have started nonprofits, other people who like host websites and do all this amazing work. And it's just so great to be surrounded by these types of people. And it's really helped me grow. And as for my youth, so where I grew up, how my high school experiences were. In high school, I was in the band. I played the flute. I stopped playing the flute because of wrist injuries, but I played the now, which has been I really enjoy it. At first I started by learning through YouTube. Then in San Francisco, Irfan Muallim taught me some dutta skills. And for the last few weeks, I've also been taking lessons from Sanyam Ismail Ustaz in Kazakhstan. So we've been doing online lessons, and we've only just started, but I've been learning a lot from her. So that's been great too. I also did volunteer work with Red Cross. I did volunteer work with my computer science classes at at Golden Valley, which is my high school. I also had an internship and job. And yes, I will give it the performance at the end. I am still learning, so even it might not be like a professional level, but I hope that whatever I play will resonate with you all. Okay. And so during my high school experiences, I guess what I can say is whatever I did, learn from it and make it your own. So what I mean by this is, even though I love the band and I loved playing the flute and I love playing the dutta and I love doing volunteer work, this is not going to be the same for everyone. And I think throughout this talk, I think that theme will be especially clear, is that this isn't a step-by-step guide of how to get into university. It's more of these are my experiences getting in. These are what other people have gone through to get in. Knowing this, take your own unique personality, take your own unique self, and build an amazing application, just build a unique persona that will make it so that the university really wants to take you in as one of their students. I think that's really the key here. There is no template for getting into university. It's more of, how are you unique enough? How much will you shape the world enough so that this university will love to have you as one of the members of their student body? Okay. And so before I get started with...
Can I ask one question? So you said that you were able to gain access to your archive, like the application materials, and read all the comments made by the admission officers. So can you share with us what you learned from looking at those materials and their comments, and so what they prioritized in their decision process?
Yeah, and I actually have so what happened was, during the beginning of December, I was able to meet with my admissions officer, or like a FERPA officer, which they had a file of exactly what the admissions officers, so the people who read my essay and the people who admitted me to Stanford, what their comments were for my application. And so how the admissions officer process works is that once you submit your application, which consists of your academics, what extracurriculars you've done, and some essays that you have to write, the admissions officers will read 2,000 applications. So they'll each have 10 minutes, approximately 10 minutes to read an application. They jot down a few comments, and then afterwards, the entire admissions officer committee meets, and the two officers who read your application have to essentially argue for you for the rest of the admissions officers. So they have to say, oh, this person is great because of this, this, this, and they have to basically convince the other officers to make you to the university. And so it's an interesting process, because since they have to convince other officers to admit you, this essentially means that they're going to admit the people who really stand out. They're going to admit the people who are really unique, and not just the people who are cookie cutter, or they took a few classes, they did a few clubs, this and this, but they didn't really have anything special about them, as compared to someone who's started a nonprofit that they're actually passionate about, or someone who does volunteer work at a petting zoo or such and such. Okay, and so I have my notes that I took down right here. The notes, they gave some comments about my academics. So I was a rank 1 valedictorian. I took 11 AP classes, and I took around 4 units of dual enrollment during high school. Note that this isn't like the case for everyone at Stanford. There are people who might not necessarily focus on academics as much as they did their extracurriculars, and they still got in because their extracurriculars were just so unique that Stanford had to accept them. And this is the case for all institutions. And in my opinion, I think that academics are really like they're kind of a barrier to get past. Like as soon as you get past this like line of, oh, he did this much in academics, then they really start looking at the extracurriculars, what they did, what makes them unique. And I think this is the portion that is the difference between someone who gets admitted and someone who might not get admitted. And so for the extracurricular section, they said that I had a multidisciplinary interest in computer science, music, and activism. I did the internship for computer science. I did band. I've done volunteer experience at Red Cross for activism. I had the most creative roommate essay in the pool. So, and when I wrote which I'll talk about later, when I wrote my essays, I did a lot of collaboration with my cousin, with Metalka, with just other people to really build out my essays and make them my own, make them creative. And they really value this kind of creativity, like unique essays versus essays that like might be applicable to like any random person. They saw the interpersonalness throughout all the questions that I gave answers to. And so essentially they really just saw who I was through my application. And because of this, they wanted to accept me. And this is just what the reader said. Note that the reader only gave like 3 sentences worth of comments. So essentially, this is what they got through 10 minutes of reading my application. It's a short application. And so the key is to really make sure that the reader understands who you are in such a short period of time. And yeah, that's essentially what the application, what the admissions officers commented on. And so real quickly to elaborate on these extracurriculars, I personally think that there's this thing that happens in a lot of high schools where people sign up to as many clubs as they possibly can because they believe that like if I sign up to 10 different clubs and become the president for 10 different clubs, like admissions officers will automatically think that I'm amazing because I've done so much stuff and that I have to get in. Honestly, I think that it's better to have like passion for maybe a few different activities and really try and excel and do the best you can for these certain activities, because it's so much better to be passionate about something and to do something and show this on your application than it is to say volunteer just 5 hours a month for some random club or just really be non-committal about all these activities. For example, during my freshman year, I was actually in the Science Olympiad, and the Science Olympiad is a great organization. There's so many people who have done amazing things in the Science Olympiad, but it just wasn't for me necessarily. So I didn't really see myself like continuing on in the Science Olympiad program. I didn't see myself really doing competitions, like really studying for the Science Olympiad competition because just didn't like it. And there's actually a lot of pushback with this between like some family members, some teachers. They really wanted me to stay in Science Olympiad because they thought that it would be amazing for college applications. But I just thought that if I wasn't passionate for it, then there really was no reason for me to continue on, and that I should focus myself more on passions that I really like, such as computer science or band. And I think I did decently fine without taking Science Olympiad. So But note that Science Olympiad is a great organization. And if you have the passion for Science Olympiad, you should definitely do Science Olympiad. Or if you have the passion for a Math Olympiad or any academic thing, if you have the passion for it, then you should by all means do it. But if you also have the passion for other things such as art, like I know someone from the East Coast who literally spent like 4 years just doing lots of art, and like their art was beautiful, and Stanford saw this and they decided to admit them. I know other people who did research opportunities with universities. And so by research opportunities, I mean like basically these students in high school emailed professors whose research was interesting to them. Like, for example, there was someone who emailed a professor who did research on bioengineering related with lizards. And so they did that research and they were really passionate about doing that research. And so that passion really showed in their application. And so really what I'm trying to say here is just do what you're passionate about, be it volunteering, be it doing video production, just anything you're passionate about, just do that and take that next step to make it your own. Like, for example, don't just show up to like one meeting a week for video production. Try to get more people into your video production program, expand your video production program out, teach maybe elementary schoolers how to do video production program. Just these sort of things that make you unique and really make you stand out for these applications. As for academics, does anyone have any, before I do that, does anyone have any questions about extracurriculars?
Someone, not about extracurriculars, someone asked about your GPA in high school. Well, or I guess the question is, what is the standard like cutoff, or not standard cutoff, but like what is the average GPA that you must have before being considered for Stanford?
Okay, yeah, that's an excellent question. And I will say, just to be transparent, my GPA was a 4.77. We had a weighted GPA in our system, so my GPA was on the higher scale. But from talking to so many like other students, it seems that GPA isn't something you should like artificially inflate, something you should really focus on if you're sacrificing other things such as having fun in high school, extracurriculars, other things that like make you stand out and unique. GPA isn't the end all be all for getting into a university. Like definitely schools value having good academics because I think that having good academics is kind of a testament of work ethic. So if you have good academics, a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time, these students also have tenacity. They work hard. So institutions will look at this good grades and see this as someone who works hard. But if you demonstrate that you work hard through other opportunities, other extracurriculars, then I think that can kind of make up for a lower GPA or even like shine past that, and that can really be your highlight. So it really just depends on a case-by-case person. Like, for example, I know someone who got into Stanford with like a 1300 SAT score, and that's just someone who is like comfortable speaking about their SAT score. I'm sure there are others who have vastly different SAT scores, vastly different GPAs. And so really there's no one cookie cutter GPA, one cookie cutter SAT score, one cookie cutter extracurricular that will automatically make you get in. It's your own unique self that will get you into these schools. And that's not saying that these schools are easy to get into. These schools are very hard to get into, but your hard work and effort will pay off if you give it that patience and determination. Okay, does that answer that question?
Yeah, I think it answers perfectly. And one more thing to remind everybody, because of COVID, SAT and ACTs have been canceled across the country this year. So that makes your application materials like your essays and other like your resumes and other aspects of your application all the more important because they cannot get a look at your standardized test scores this time.
Right, and I believe UCs are like even debating on phasing out even more so than just this year. I'm not totally sure on the UC system, but this SAT score is something that's so highly coveted, but it's really just one part of your application. You have to make sure that your entire application is solid, not just focus on doing amazing on your SAT, but just like coasting through the rest of high school. You should really just try your best at anything you do. Okay. And so with that, I'll also talk about just the rest of academics, just the rest of tips I can give. Take challenging courses to the point that you know you can do your best in them without sacrificing anything else that you possibly want to do. So it's always a give or take system. We only have 24 hours in our day. So if you think that you can take like 6 AP classes and like 4 classes of dual enrollment and also do like start your own nonprofit and start your own business and do all this, like that's great and all, but you probably won't get sleep. You'll probably not be happy, and really this isn't sustainable. So take something that will take a good course load that will like still keep you with a solid mental health is what I'm trying to say, but also take a challenging course load so that you can grow as a person and so that colleges know that you are being challenged. I think the AP classes for the most part is a very good system. There's also IB and there's also dual enrollment, which basically means taking community college classes while taking high school at the same time. All these are great ways to challenge yourself in terms of course load. And it's also good prep for just college coursework also. You don't necessarily want to coast through these classes and then go into college and just like have to work hard for the first time. And all of a sudden you realize that you don't have like study skills. You want to make sure to try your best in high school while also making sure to enjoy life, essentially. Like you're still in high school, you're still a kid, so enjoy life while still doing all these extracurriculars and trying your best in terms of coursework. And I think Mutalka can also emphasize on this. University courses are challenging, but there is a good support system. So like you'll like every step of the way you'll learn, but also you just need to have a good work ethic, I think is the most important thing. Like people come from all sorts of backgrounds. People come from private, public institutions. And so their exposure to challenging coursework will vary. But having a good work ethic, I think, is the most important thing. And if Mutalka has any other comments on work ethic or coursework.
Yeah, I think you did a great job of covering the academics and extracurriculars as well as standardized tests. Maybe maybe we can focus a bit more on like, so you do like these really cool, amazing extracurricular work that you are passionate about, and how do you highlight that in your application materials? What are the different ways that you can showcase to the admissions officers that you've done these cool projects and you've had some impact on the society or on your community, that you're ready for the academic challenges of the university?
Okay, yeah. And I think this is definitely the part you have the most control over your senior year when you're actually starting to write your application, because all the extracurriculars you do in school, essentially you have to convey how much they mean to you to these admissions officers, because you could have literally like invented the cure for something, but if you don't show the college admissions officers why this is so impactful and they don't like understand why this is significant, then they just see just another application. And so I think that essays and like the admissions essays and the entire application as a whole is very important. And so obviously these essays will vary completely based on what your writing style is, what your upbringing is. Like my essays were my essays, but other people's essays, other people's upbringings, other people's life is different than mine. So your essays will be completely different than mine, and that is totally fine because you are a unique person. But really, it's just trying to convey this uniqueness, which is so hard and which is what a lot of people struggle with during this application process. And So make sure that when you're developing your questions, developing your answers, make sure to focus on every single question that the application asks you. For example, in the Stanford application, how it's structured is it's basically part of the Common App. So first you have to give just a simple like summary, your transcript, your GPA, all that, your extracurriculars. And then you start writing your short and long answer essay questions. And so these questions can vary from name something meaningful to you. So something as generic as that, you have to write like 600-word essay about something meaningful to you. And it can be something like write an essay to your roommate. And like it can be it's questions like that. And they seem like very random questions. But with these questions, colleges are trying to get a sense of what your personality is, what makes you unique. And so I see a question about what my Common App is about. So my main Common App essay, my 600-word essay was about basically the and so how I grew to love music and how I use this passion for music and to eventually like represent the Uyghur culture, represent the Uyghur people, and to really just show how Uyghur culture is something that is especially integral to my identity. And
can I jump in real quick here? What I really liked about your essay and how I was like, as even we worked on your essay together on several drafts, and even the first draft was really strong to start with. And what I was really impressed is that Erik was already really strong academically. He had a very high SAT scores, and his intended major was computer science. But we did not highlight that in the essay because it was already quite clear to anybody who would read his application materials that he's a strong college material. So his essay was about playing the dutar, his passion for music, and then how through music he served his community, Uyghur community in California or LA by playing during different gatherings, social events, and preserving the culture, and also being an activist, introducing who Uyghurs are to the world, to people in the U.S., and introducing them through music and doing that kind of activism work. And I think as someone reading that, what stood out to me was, oh, this is a computer science student, but he's not a geek like that only cares about programming and coding. He has other passions too. And I think that's like that kind of essay will help admission officers see a full person, a unique person. And I think that's what I recommend anybody to take advantage of. And just to kind of recap what has been mentioned, hozir qilasidan bir xulosalasam, boya deb kelgan narsa 4 narsa bakroq ta'kidlandi buningda. Birisi o'rta maktabdagi natija GPA, ikkinchi birisi mana SAT ya ACT mushu imtihonlardagi natija. Ondan keyin uchinchi birisi extracurriculars, to'rtinchi birisi ondan keyin oliy maktab iltimos jarayonidagi maqola. Endi qarab baqsaq 5dagi 3ni cho'qim bu men imtihon endi bu yil oliy maktabga iltimos qilishni boshlaymi deganda qilsa ulguradigan narsalar emas. GPAni shu 1-yildan tortib kuchimisa u shu bir yerga bormaydi. Ondan keyin extracurricular activity bilan shu uni shu burundan tortib qilmasa biroqlam bir mavsumda bir ishni qilib natija chiqarg'ila olmaydi. Ondan keyin bularni masalan extracurricular activityga mening maslahatim maktabning biror klubiga qatnashish yaxshi. Ammo u klub qatnashib qo'yganlar emas, osh klubninki maktabning sirtida ya maktabdagi boshqa bolalarga qanday ta'siri bo'ldi? Cho'qim bir ahamiyatli ta'sir kuchi bor ish bo'lsa, andan keyincha shu maqolalar shuni gavdalantirsa, an boshqalar nimani ko'rdi ekan desa, bu bir ishni qilish kerak bo'lganlik uchun ham qilgan emas. Chunki buni qilsa bir ahamiyatli boshqalarga boshqalarning hayotini bir yaxshilaydigan foydasi bor ekan deb andan keyin ashdan ta'sirlantirirkan. Masalan, meniki bir o'quvchim bir non-profit quribdi. To'r betiga chiqsa, u non-profitning shunda yaxshi chiroyli loyihalayotgan. Qanday qildi ekan desa, o'sha qizlarga ma'rifiga yordam qildi ekan. Bu o'quvchim shu 10-sinf, 11-sinfdagi vaqtda ikki ta'tilda shu qizlarni yig'ib bir ikki haftalik bir narsa dars o'tab berib, kamp yoziq lager faoliyat qilib berib, ashlarga nutq so'z, leksiya so'zlab, tarbiyalab qilibdi bo'laqmi? Bunda turmush oila iqtisodi nachar oilalardan kelgan bolalarga. Ondan keyin o yazlık ta'tillarni to'xtatib qo'ymay, masalan, shu mavsum yil o'ttirsida bir oyda ya 2 oyda bir qitim ashlardan shanba-yakshanba bir qatimdan ko'rishib, yana bir yeri ashlarning hammani dokument qilib, rasmga tortib, to'r betiga chiqarib qilibdi-da, shuning bilan qarasa, buning to'r betiga hamma odam ko'rgandan keyin bu shunda yaxshi ishlarni qilgan ekan, ondan keyin qilgan ishlarini davomlashtiribdi ekan deb xalqlarga bergan ta'siri bu odam o'ziga ham ko'ngil bildigan emas, o'zidan boshqalarga ko'ngil bilib, mush jamiyatni, o'zining communityni texmi kuchaytsamkan degan bir passion bor ekan, bir yaxshi yurak, qalb bor ekan deb shuning bilan bak ta'sirlantirdi ekan. Andaki uni ba'zi admission application materialini, iltimos materialini tayyorlaganda bir qancha kichik savollar bor. Shu savollarda andan qig'iliq gap jiqroq bo'ldi ekan, ashta ish bo'lsa. Extracurricular. Andan eng muhimi, eng oxirgisi to'rt narsaning college essay. College essayni mana u shunda muhim nuqtani egallaydi. Hamda 1-2 oy kuchab vaqt sarf qilsa, raus kuchlik yozg'ili bo'lib, xili cho'ng farq hosil qila oladi aslidagi iltimosninki kuchlik darajasida. Shunglashqaliqi balkim Erik, can you talk about the process of writing your college application essay and how you collaborated with others and what the impact was and what the final outcome of the multiple revisions and editing was?
Yeah, I think that was a great summary to what I've said earlier. Pretty much like the main points that you said were all spot on. As for college essays, I think that the biggest thing is telling a story. Like, you have to tell a story about yourself and really make it like personal to you. You know, it's the thing that makes you unique. Because all this like stuff about academics, all this stuff about like SAT scores and whatnot, that stuff, a lot of other students have done the same things. You know, a lot of other students have taken rigorous coursework. This is just a guarantee when you're up against, like, when you're in this pool. A lot of these students are, pretty much all these students are extremely competitive, and so it's these essays and these extracurriculars that really are what make you stand out. And so by telling a story, you're effectively showing how you grew up and how your experiences shaped who you are and how this will impact what you do in the future. For example, when I talked about my volunteer experience with Red Cross, I started with and this was a short, just 150-word essays, extremely short. I started by talking about, our Red Cross club was super small. It only had 2 members when I came into the organization. My high school only had 2 members, but I really had a passion for Red Cross. So me and the rest of my team, and of course, I give total credit to my team also, because it's a team effort. You have to give credit to your team, give credit to anyone who helped you throughout this process. My team and I built out the Red Cross program in our high school so that by senior year, I think we had 40 members show up to some meetings. We built out just multiple Red Cross clubs throughout the my city's area. And we really tried to make as much of an impact possible. So I showed this progression of my story to show how I essentially grew this Red Cross program. And I didn't just list this Red Cross program at the start, it had 2 people. And then by senior year, it had this many people. I showed the process of the grueling hours that we took to get this to happen. I think my dad, who's actually on this call, knows how many grueling hours I did for Red Cross, and I think it was all worth it. But I really just tried to highlight this, and it's so hard to do in such a short essay, but I think that's really the key between a great essay. Also, being creative is a very strong part of these essays. For example, one of my essays, which was given the most creative roommate essay in the pool, basically it was the roommate essay. And so what I did is I wrote the entire essay in code. And so I wrote like, if roommate is cool, then I listen to music with him. And so doing this kind of showed like my passion for code while also being kind of unique take to this roommate essay. So I thought that was like something special with my essay. Note that this isn't something that like you can't just copy and paste like, oh, like just because he wrote his essay in code, like I should do that too. In fact, I recommend against that because the admissions officers have already seen this code essay, so they would like realize that you're like trying to copy what someone else did instead of coming up with your own unique idea. And so really try to make sure to come up with your own unique ideas, unique takes on these essays to make them your own. And Mutabka has also seen many other essays, so I think he can be especially helpful with this.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes when students think about writing, they think that, it should be something in my mind, in my brain. I have to transfer that onto the paper or onto the computer screen. But writing is not like, it doesn't work that way. Writing is social, and by that we mean it's a collaborative process. When we write, we always have some audience in mind, and we are trying to reach that audience, persuade that audience. And sometimes what you intend to say doesn't work out the way you intended, the way you plan. So what you need to do is talk to people. Okay, here's what I wrote as my college application essay. Here are the questions. And what do you think about this? This is what I intended to say. Do you think you can see that in my essay? When I read either students' essay in my at Stanford, because students still write a lot of application essays for internships and for grad schools, so we help them with that at Stanford, and also I help with other college application essays of Uyghur students, our community members, children here. What I notice is that they assume their audience knows who Uyghurs are, or what they've done, or they are familiar with their life stories. But that's not the case. And in that case, people need to make whatever you say on the essay explicit to someone who has never met you, so that like you can communicate with a stranger in a short period of time, or in a short space, like in a small space. 600 words, that's not a lot, and still give them a vivid picture. You cannot fit in everything, but you need to create a vivid picture of who you are, and that's what the essay should be about. And I think my recommendation for the essay is maqola yezdiqchilik degani cho'qim o'xshamagan odamlar bilan, bir qancha odam bilan o'qib, endi agar men bir qanchalarni paranglasam, ki ma'lum boshqalar bilan paranglashib o'qitdingizmi, ashlarning yordamini so'radingizmi desam, ha so'rdim, mening saboqdashimdan so'rdim deydi. Endi saboqdash degan shu to'liq o'tirning 3-yilligidagi bolalar, ularni bir jarayonni muvaffaqiyatli tugatib boqmagan. Ularning tajribasi bor, ammo cheklik. Shunlashqa shu oliy maktab imtihonisining iltimos qilishning maqolasini yozganda cho'qim ya osh maktabga, siz qabul qilingan maktabga muvaffaqiyatli o'tgan odamga iltimosni qilib, men ma to'g'riliq yozgandim, qarab biramsiz desa, hatta mesela Stanfordning birinchi yil o'quvchilarining ko'pinchasining emaili Stanfordda bor. Harvardga iltimos qilsa Harvardda bor, Yale'ga iltimos qilsa Ashyaning bor. Ashlardan bu emailni elib, shu chiroyli gapni qilib yozsa xatni, u odamning nechisi cho'qim qaytirdi. Ma'qul emasga yordam qilay deb. U bir 600 xatlik maqolani o'qib fikr berishga jiq vaqt ketmaydi hech qanday odamning. Ashlarning fikrini olsa, anandan keyin maqolaning sifati yaxshi chiqadi. Hem shu maktabdagilar iltimos qilganning nimani talab qilganligini to'g'ri tushunib, anandan keyin yaxshi degan maqsadga yetkilib bo'ldi. Endi unda qo'z to'rt tarafini hammani yaxshi so'zlab berganimiz, bizning vaqtimizmi hozir to'shib qolay dedi. Biz manda o'rlashtirishni qaraqliq 5 1 soat shu astam suhbat bo'lsa, anandan keyin nurg'ullarninki tafsiliy savollari bo'lishi mumkin. Masalan, hozir chatda 2-3 savol bo'lib bo'ldi. Anikin boshqa so'rmagan savollar bo'lishi mumkin. Shunlashqa biz manda o'ylash qilsak, bir soat tugagandan keyin anandan keyin savol maxsus Q&A question and answer ga bir vaqt olib 1/2 soatdek qilsak, mushu yig'ini tugutishdan burun Erik inimiz duttani shunda yaxshi chaladi. Endi Erik inimizninki dutta bir qancha dutta pardasini bizga urlab bersa, mushta tugatsak deb o'ylashdik. Unda bo'lsa hozir qaraylik, unda bo'lsa Erik.
Before that, I just had some final remarks about
Okay.
I really want to emphasize what Mutalka said about the collaborative process. Writing, and the more you go up in terms of writing skill, the more you realize this, writing is totally a collaborative process, because it's so hard to just immediately in your first draft, just put everything that's in your mind onto the paper. I struggle with this so hard whenever I write any of my essays. And for example, in Mutalka's what's it called, in the class I was at with Mutalka, we had to write a 4,000 word paper. And at first it was how do I go about this? How do I put my ideas on the paper? So at first I just wrote, I just tried to just write whatever I could, because it's always good to have as many ideas as you possibly can on the paper. And this goes for college essays, any sort of essays that you write. After that, I looked over the essay myself and made some touches. And then I asked my peers, people who have written more essays than me, and I've gotten their advice. And I think that this is so important, because one, these people are more knowledgeable, and they're very willing to help. And this is super great for, be it college essay writing or college application essay writing, just any sort of writing you do. But also because these people are reading without context. And so while you have the context for writing, for what you said in these essays, for example, I could have talked about the to these application admissions officers, but they have no idea what the data is. Most of them don't know what Uyghurs are, just because that's the current state of the world as that is. But we have to be explicit about this sort of thing, because we really want to give the admissions officers a full perspective of who we are and how we grew and how this application came to be. And so I think it's super important to have people without context read your essays and give pointers about exactly what you can include that give context.
All right, thank you. Okay, now I have, so there are a lot of parents in this, attending this event today. So as a student, as a high schooler, as a college student that just finished high school and now starting your college career, what advice do you have for the parents about how to raise their kids or how to deal with their moody teenagers?
Okay, so obviously every family is different. Family dynamics are completely different between family and family. Whatever my parents did will probably not apply to every single parent, just because people are different. That's just how things are. But one thing I will say is that there's definitely there can sometimes be an age or cultural difference between Uyghur parents who might have been born in the Uyghur region and Uyghur Americans who were born in America. And so really just a mutual respect between both parties, I think, is super key. Make sure that your kids are having fun in high school, because part of this, it's still their youth, they still should have fun. But also obviously it's important to consider the next steps of life. So do your parent duties as you see fit, while making sure to listen to your kids, really making sure to understand that your kids have certain interests that they want to prioritize over others. For example, if your kid likes to do tennis, let them do tennis if your kid likes to like volunteer for a certain organization that you've never heard of, but they're like really passionate about it. Let them volunteer. Just try to like let your kid explore as much as possible and let them grow themselves. I think that's the biggest thing that I can say, because it's their lives and you're their guide. I think like my parents were my guides. They show me so much about life. And so they essentially guided me, but it was myself who was motivated, and myself who tried to find other opportunities that I liked, that I eventually prioritized and eventually wrote about in my applications. So really just be understanding of your kids while also maintaining a parental role, but making sure that your kids can explore their passions.
Rahmat. Hozir Erikning otasi Qurbonjo mishada. Qurbonjo akam, siz mushu endi har qandaq mushu Stanfordga o'tish har qandaq bir ota bo'g'uchiga nisbatan qattiq faxrlangudek ish. Siz endi mushu Erikni cho'ng qilish tajribangizni va mushu o'rta maktab, oliy maktabga tayyorlik qilish jihatdagi qandaq bizdagi men sizdan o'rganishim kerak mushjati, chunki biz agar o'zimning bolasini mushta yaxshi cho'ng qilib, mushta ham madaniyatni tushunadigan, hurmatlaydigan, ham tirishchan, hamda desak sifatlar bakchiq. Mushta cho'ng qilish orzuyimiz bor. Hamda sizning qanday bizdagi yosh ota-onalarga qanday maslahatingiz, tajribangiz bor? Ovozingizni chiqarib o'ting, Qurbonjo aka. Shu bo'ldi.
Biz sizni anlamadik.
Ovozingiz chiqmayotdi yana. Agarda yana bo'lmadi Qurbonjo aka. Agar men texnikalik masalani hal qilguvchi ya dutadan bir parda cheppasan, shu vaqtdan keyin qayta bir aloqa tushib ketib qayta chiqsa bo'ladiki Qurbonjo aka.
Bo'lmasa
Yo'msa agar sening qishing kelsin mayli. Awkward his qilmasanglar.
anladı da.
Ovozingizni anglayolmadik Qurbonjo aka. Qur'onda sening qishingga chiqmoqchi endi.
Okay. While that's happening, I'll just quickly answer a few of these questions.
Okay.
My essay, I think that's like a little personal to me, so I can give like general things about what was in my essays, but I don't really feel necessarily comfortable sharing my entire essay out to everyone, because these essays are inherently, they should be personal to you, and so like it's something that you might not feel comfortable posting to the public, and so that's actually, I think that's a strength, to make your essay as personal as you possibly can, but also because of that inherently personal nature, I don't necessarily want to share my essay. Do you think going to another country to study will help with the application? Oh, I will answer that after my dad speaks. Yeah.
Endi ovozim chiqdimi? Bak yaxshi chiqyapti jaranglik.
Assalomu alaykum. Qarindoshlar, qanday ahvolinglar, yaxshi tudinglarmi? Hammalarning mush vaqt xayrli bo'lsin. Mendan hammalarga o'tliq salom. Shu 2-3 kunning oldida mutalib edimiz Muştaq oğlunuz bilan bir söhbət ötküzməkçi. Şu vaqtida oxirida bir 5-10 minut vaqtingizni chiqarib, bola tarbiyalash to'g'risida bir so'zlab bergan bo'lsangiz, deb so'z qoldiribdi. Men ma'qul dedim. Ham bir eslab ko'rdim o'zimningki tajribalarimni. Men bir bayon qilib boqay. Balkim mushu o'tagan barliq ota-onalarga o'xshashlam tarbiyaladim deb o'ylayman. Uningdan ortiq taraflari yo'q bo'lishi mumkin. Shundan so'ng men bir so'zlab boqay. Uningdan o'zingizlarga foydaliqkan deb qaragan taraflar bo'lib qolsa, qabul qilasizlar. Men ayolim bilan 2002-yili Yaponiyadan Amerikaga keldim. Shu yili 9-oyda Erik tug'ildi. Biz shu hech qanday bir tajribamiz yo'q. Ota-onalarga o'xshashlarni bola tarbiyalashni boshlab ketdik. Nima o'xshadi?
Abay degan gaplar hozir kelyotidi.
Shundaqmi? Shu kompyuterda chatib olganda, yaxshi kompyuterda bolam o'ylab, mana shu kamaydigan kompyuter tutqizib qo'yibdi ketdi.
Mana hammasi abay degan gaplaringiz.
Endi kelyotdi. Shu biz bu bola nima Erik tug'ilgandan tortiblam kitob o'qib berishni odat qildik. Shu kichigidillam. Her güne çıkıp uxlashdan avval ayolim bo'lsin yoki men bo'lay qaysimizdan vaqt bo'lsa kitob o'qishni ko'p davomlashtirdik. Undan keyin kutubxonaga ko'proq
Yana bir unmute qilib o'ting. Bo'ldi.
Bular o'zlari kitob o'qilaydigan bo'lgan vaqtida shu kutubxonaga opiramiz. Har bir bag'inimda qizim bilan shu o'g'lim ikkisi bir 30-40 kitobni somkaga laqqitan to'shqizib akilatdik. Shu esimda bor endi. Uyga kelib bir haftadek o'qiydi, bir haftadan keyin o'qib bo'ldik deydi, yana opiramiz. Shu kichik vaqtlarda kutubxonaga ko'p opirib, kitobni ko'p o'qigan bular. Ondan keyin shanba kunlari amal bor shu atrofimizdagi bog'chalar bo'lsin, hayvonotlar bog'chasi bo'lsin, mayli Disney bog'chasi bo'lsin, muzeylarga shu vaqt chiqarib amal bor shunday xiyollar ko'proq opadik. Bizning qila oladigan ishlarimiz shu ekan debchi. Ba'zida tanishlarimizning bolalari bilan bordik, ba'zida o'zimiz opadik degandek. Ondan keyin Erik to'liqsiz maktab o'tirg'i chiqqandan keyin biz hozir turayotgan yerimizga ko'chib keldik shaharga. Shu turishlik o'rnimizdagi oilalarning bolalari boradigan bir odatdagi public to'liqsiz o'tirma maktabiga bordi. Shu borgan vaqtida mening hamda esimda qolishicha u maktabningki muzik klubiga kirdi. Bu naychilishda shu bilan tarbiyalagan o'qituvchisi bak yaxshi chiqdi. Shu vaqtda-chu shu o'qituvchi buning naychilishiga eng qiziq turgan o'qituvchi deb qarayman. Shu o'qituvchining yetakchishi bilan bu qaytib kelib darsdan qaytib kelgan vaqtida uyda 1 soat, 1,5 soat nayni mashq qiladi. Bu uyning ichini ko'tarib o'tadi-ku, nayning ovozini bilisizlar yo'q. Aynan mashq qiladi, davomli mashq qiladi. Undan keyin shu to'liqsizda asosli qo'lga keltirgan narsasi menimcha shumikin deb o'ylayman. Natijalari boshlang'ichdan tortib hamda yaxshi odatga o'qish natijalari-chu. U yerdan erishgan narsasi shu bo'ldi deb o'ylayman. Undan keyin bu to'liqsizdan to'liq o'tirg'i chiqqan vaqtida shu maktabdagi o'quvchilar boradigan hozir shu bitagan maktabi Golden Valley High School deb shu maktabga berish kerak ekan. Yana birisi mushada bizning shu shaharda bir kollej borda. Kollejning tarmoqida bir o'tir maktab bor ekan. Kollejning o'tir maktabi ekan. Bu maktabga har yili 80 bolani shu to'liqsiz o'tir maktab bitagan atrofdagi o'tir maktablardan shu yaxshi o'qigan bolalardan 80 o'quvchini lotereya shaklida qabul qilib, o'qitdi ekanda. Mening ayolim doktorxonada ishlaydigan bo'lgandan keyin, bu doktorxonadagi doktorlar, undan keyin xizmatdoshlari orasida gap bo'ladi ekanda, voy bolalarimizni shu maktabga kirgizsak yaxshi bo'ladi, shu maktab bak yaxshi deb shuning gapi to'liq bo'ladi ekanda. Shuning bilan bu Erik Rozi ashuni iltimos qilib qo'ydi-dok. Iltimos qilib qo'ydi. Bu qabul qilindi shu maktabga. Voy chiqibdiman deb. Shuning bilan biz xushal bo'ldik. Lekin shu maktabga berishni hamda bekitilgan vaqti bor-da, hamda oxirgi cheki. Boraman yo bormayman deydigan. Shu vaqtida bu Erik men u maktab bormayman. Men shu Golden Valley High School berib, ashada bangiga kirgim bor, musiqa chog'im bor. Hamda A maktabda asosliq akademiyani asos qiladi ekanda. O musiqa nimalarmi yo'q, sportmi yo'q, ashunday maktabga. Shuning bilan bu bormayman deb turib oldi. Turib olgandan keyin bu ayolim xizmat o'rnida bek anglab ketgachki, voy buning kirishga shunday tez tutsa, hammadan orzu qiladi ekan uning kirishga, nima kirmaysan deb bu xeyli tirkishdi buning bilan. Shuning bilan men orliqda o'ylasam buni zo'lab bu maktab kirgizib qo'yib, bir orliqda undan keyin o'zining o'ylig'indek bo'lmay qilib, shuning bilan sen meni zo'lab akirib qo'yib, men azam boradigan maktab bormagan deb bo'lmishsin deb shuning bilan ayolimni asla tortib, buni qoyil qilib, bu Erik kelgan vaqtida boradigan maktabga bordim-da, buningga sen bir narsa yezib kelsa, bana bizni qoyil qilgidek. Sen hozirgi borgan mushu Golden Valley High School'ga borsan, qandaq o'qiydiganligingni shu to'g'risida bizni qoyil qila olsang, shu yozgan narsangda undan keyin borsang bo'ldi dedim-da. Shuning bilan bu ma'qul deb kirib ketib bir 2 soatning ichida yezib kelibdi. Yezib printerda besib qo'lam tutqizib qo'ydi o'qib vaqtda. Hamda u vaqtida mening o'zimning ko'ngildimi arqa maktabga borsin degan narsa kelib bo'lganda, qandaqli yozgan bo'lsa-mu, yaxshi yezibsa deydigan yan kelib bo'lgan vaqt. Shu o'qsam haqiqatan qoyil qilgidek yezibdi. Shuning bilan nayta yaxshi yezibsa, qoyil bo'ldik. Shu o'qigan maktabga berib o'qisang bo'ldi, lekin menga qo'l qo'yvat deb qo'l qo'yg'izib o'qig'azga. O'zimni qo'l qo'yib degandek. Mushla qilib shu hozirgi o'qigan Golden Valley High School ash maktabda o'qidi. U maktab kirgandan keyingi faoliyatlarini bayatdan beri tafsili tonishtirdi deb o'ylayman. Bizning atalib bo'lish sifatimiz bilan qilgan ishimiz asosligi to'liq o'tir maktabida buning asosliq yaxshi shopir bo'ldik bundaqcha aytgan vaqtida. Maktabning banisi qatnashdi bu. U banning faoliyati nihoyat ko'p bo'ladi ekan-ku. Maktab soat 3larda tugagan bo'lsa, bularninki bu mashq qilishi 4larda boshlandi. Soat 9gacha. Kech soat 9gacha bular pijg'irim optopda shu uyqug'im men neyin tutib, uyqug'im domboqcha oldiganlar dombog'ini chelib, ajindan qilib soat 9gacha mashq qiladi-ku bular. Shu oraliqda biz darsdan tushishiga to'g'rilab maktabning ishigida turibdi-doq mashina bilan berib, undan keyin tush bilan akaplam uyda qo'sig'ini azroq to'yg'izib burumdoq yo'g'on bir bodil cho'ng tungo su toshqizib oldigan. Shu toshqizib mana da maktabga olib tushirib qo'yib, undan keyin 9 bo'lgan vaqtida naqdal vaqtida berib, shu 9da elib degandek-ku. Balki bu ishlarning hammasini amalar o'xshash qilyapsizlar qachon. Endi shu ashunday yaxshi shopir bo'ldik. Red Cross qildim qildi. Uning faoliyati maktabda bo'lmaydi ekan. Bularning yig'inlari-ku ko'pincha boshqa bir har qaysi maktablarda kelar yig'ilib qiladigan ishlar bo'lgandan keyin shu yerga shu vaqtida yetkazib degandek-ku, vaqtida elib ishlarda biz hamda bundaq kuch chiqardik deb o'ylayman. Undan boshqa buningki o'qishchiga masalan A darsini olgan, M darsini o'qiy, qanday o'qiyotsa, u taraflarda hech qanday bizning rolimiz yo'q. Undaqcha aytgan vaqtida. Natijasini so'rab qo'yamiz oxirida. Bular qancha oldi, qanday o'qiyotsa deb-chi. Qolgan taraflarda shu biz qo'shimcha yordam qo'sig'ini to'yg'izib degandek-chi. Uy bilan ta'minlab yotqizib degandek.
Rahmat Qurbonjon aka. Men endi boshqa tomoshabinlar endi bir gapni degim keldi. Endi sizningki men naqadar inchga bol tarbiyalashda qanchalik o'zingizni beg'ishlaganligingizni men bir qancha rasmni Erik avatib berdi, sizmi avatib berdingiz. Shuningdan bak ta'sirlandimchi, sizga demagandim bu ko'rsatma butun qatnashganlarga deb. Shu rasmlarni bir ko'rsatay. Bu Qurbonjon akam bu yil endi mana bu virus tufaylidan butun bolalar maktab kelanmadi. Uyda o'qidida. Endi ko'ngli shuna yerim bo'libdi Qurbonjon akamning bolam maktabda Stanfordga berib o'qiydigan odam o'qiyolmadi deb shunga uyining oshxonasini Stanfordning cafeteria shaklida yasab Qurbonjon akam butun Stanfordning oshpazdek shefdak kiyimni kiyib shundaq astoydillik bilan tomoqlarni tayyorlab avatibdikan menga bak ta'sir qildi u shu rasm. Shuningdan keyin men o'zimninki shu bolalarimni tarbiyalashdagi ba'zi inchkiroq bo'lmasam bo'lmaydi ekan degan narsani tunib yetdim. Bu bak menga yaxshi ta'sir qildida. Shu rasmni men boshqa shu ko'pchilik bilan bir o'rtoqlashay. Qani bu nimada? İşte qo'yay mana. To'xtab turinglar. Yana bir chiqirib olay. Unda olsa mana bu mana mushta rasmlarni chiroyli qilib Stanford Dining Hall deb anondan chef's menu special bean and cheese burrito anondan keyin mayada mana oshpaz bo'lib xitgan mana shu rasm bak ta'sir qildi. Mana bu Erikninki anondan keyin mana bu tomoq, mana bu tomoqning sifatichi. Endi bu zodi oshpazning tomoqi bu. Kichikna yeshil narsalarni qo'yib qo'yishingiz ayaga. Yendi ichimlik tayyor, mau tayyor. Buning hammasi endi menga qattiq ta'sir qildi. Shunga shu ko'pchilik bilan o'rtaq bahrangim keldi buni. Endi Endi Erikdan so'raydigan bir savol bor. Anondan keyin savolni so'raversam, anondan keyin ko'pchilikning savoli bo'lsa, savolga javob berib, andan keyin shu duttadan bir pada yo ikki pada urulab bersa, bugungi faoliyatni tugatsak.
Ma'qul, rahmat unda qilsa.
Rahmat Qurbonjon aka. Rahmat.
Assalomu alaykum.
Wa alaykum assalam. Okay, so we've talked about four things: academics, SAT, ACT, standardized tests, and college application essays and extracurriculars. We have left out one super important detail, very important factor in choosing universities. It's financials, money. So, endi hammalar o'ylaydida bu masalan Stanford, Harvard, Yale, Princeton bundaq maktablarningki o'qish puli endi favqulodda qimmat. Masalan Stanfordningki to'liq o'qish puli odatda $55,000 atrofida. Harvardning shu 50,000, 40,000. Endi mushu tufayli men bunday anglagan o'qish pulidan o'ylabman nurg'un ota-onalar yo'q dangliq maktablar bak qimmat bo'lib ketadi, biz qarzga bo'g'ilib ketmayli deb o'ylashadigan ish bor. Shunga so if you feel comfortable, Erik, could you talk about the financials and how to pay for college or how much it's costing you to attend Stanford?
Yeah, and actually this was something that my parents and I were also concerned about because, you know, college is extremely, like it can be extremely expensive. But I think one great thing about like these Ivy League or Stanford, like these institutions, is that they actually have very good financial aid. So even though their list price might be like $70,000 for 1 year, in reality, what Stanford does at least is anyone who makes under 150K essentially gets free tuition, all of their tuition's covered. And that's just if they like get under that certain amount of income. There's like other scholarship essay that they have to write, like nothing like that. It's just if you make under this certain amount, like you get your tuition covered. And so my family, we fall under that sort of range. So I essentially get my full tuition covered, and all I have to pay for is like half of my dorm, which I am super lucky to have the opportunity, and like I'm so grateful for that. And if you make under 65K, I believe it's free tuition and free dorm/food. So you don't even have to pay for food or housing. You can literally just go to Stanford, not have to worry about any of that, and just study and do whatever activities to your heart's content, which is something really great about these higher institutions. For example, I also applied to the UCs, and I believe UC Berkeley like offered me $30,000 for tuition. So it would have been more expensive for me to go to UC Berkeley than Stanford, even though Stanford's list price might have been $70,000. It is pretty specific to higher institutions like Stanford, Harvard. I'm not sure what other Ivy League institutions do for their financial aid. So that's something that you'd have to do research with yourself. But I know that for Stanford and Harvard, they're pretty generous with financial aid.
Shu men shunga yana degim keldi, ko'pincha vaqtda shu masalan o'zimizningki o'qish pulni dangliq universitetlarni tanlaganda o'qish puldan o'ylashmay, ansirmay, avval tanlab, jiqqa iltimos qilib, qabul qilinib bo'lgandan keyin ko'pincha vaqtlarda bu dangliq universitetlarning hammasi bek boy keldi ekan. Ularningki shu 30 milliard 40 milliardlik shu yig'ilgan pullari bor ekan, shu boshqalar iyoni qilgan. Shuningdan chiqarib o'quvchilarga yordam qilishni bek muhim o'rin qo'ydi. Aniki men shu burun his qilmabman. Burun hamma bolalar maktabda o'qigandan keyin biz sinfda ko'rsak hamma bolalar o'xshash, kiyimlari o'xshash. Biz ularning oila ahvolini bilmagachga hamda xiyolimizda Stanfordning bolalari chuqur bek yaxshi hamda dangliq baylarning yoki dangliq odamlarning bolalari deb ashta o'ylaydim. Undalarim bor. Masalan, meningki burun o'qigan o'quvchilari o'qitgan bolalarning ichida ota-onasi Oqsaroyda ishlaydigan yoki da shu Washington DC'da best-selling kitoblarni yozgan yoki cho'ng bir banka mushtaqiliq finance ishlaydigan odamlarning bolalari bor. Bir qancha o'quvchim e'tibor etini ular maktabning at komandasiga o'zining etini Stanfordga akilib, Stanfordda apni qo'yib beqib, ananiki o'qiydigan manda bolalar bor. Ammo bu qatam shu to'rda dars o'qishda shuni his qildim. Amaliyotda nurg'un bolalar fly o'quvchi deymiz. Fly degan nima desa, first generation and low income students deb bularning fly deb qaraymiz. Bunda o'quvchilarni ko'pkan. Uylarga masalan bir qancha o'quvchim bor o'tgan oldingi mavsumda. Bir o'quvchim bir mavsumda 3-4 yerga ko'chib yurib o'qidi, homeless. Yana bir o'quvchim ota-onasining munosabati yaxshi emas ekan to'q. Shu uydan chiqib ketib dadasi bilan motelda turib, 2 hafta motelda oldi darsni. Andan keyin yana bir qancha bolalarning darsiga qatnashganda qarsam, uyning ichi hamda shunda bir kichik bulunga kelib turib, andiki anglaydi, uyda har xil ovozlar chiqib turdi. Endi mushunda sharoitda turib o'qigan bolalarmijiq. Hatto ba'zi bolalarga maktab kompyuterni avatib, pochtadan. Ondan keyin internet pulusini berib, chunki uyda internet yo'q. Ondan keyin internet pulusini Stanford app berib, ondan keyin asli Stanford kelgan bo'lsa, yotoqni ko'tarib, tomoqni ko'taradigan pullarni avatib berdi. Ondan keyin shu tug'an yerda turib, shu pullar bilan o'qigan menda bolalar bor. Shunlashqa dangliq universitetlarga bularmi iltimos qilganam shu iqtisodni bek o'ylashmay, o'qishni yaxshi o'qib, ravs o'tib bo'lgandan keyin, ondan keyin maktablarningki financial aid bek yaxshi. Shu bo'yicha o'qisak, shuningda bahramand bo'lsa, menimcha qiynalmaydi. Ondan keyin yana birsi, bu bolalar 2 yildan keyin, masalan, Erik 2 yildan keyin internship qilsa, shu yozda praktika bir yerda. Odatda buni endi computer science o'qiyman deydi Erik. Ondan keyin 3 oyga ko'pincha vaqtda shu buni oldiga yana ekan desa, o'tgan yili mening birinchi yilim shu yozdilam, bir qancha o'quvchim Facebookda internship qilib, Seattle'ningki tarmoqiga bordi ekanmiz deb xo'shal ashta yuratdi. Demak, 3 oy to'liq ishlaydi ekan, ondan keyin internship qilib 3 oy topgan pulisi 1 yillik turmush o'qish pullarini ko'tarishiga xili yetirgan yomisi xili cho'ng yordam bo'ldi ekan. Shunga mushuma bir muhim bir uchur manbasi deb o'yladik. Undan so'ng yana bir savol bor Erik. So how important which high schools to go to? That's question 1. Question 2 is it true that only 1 or 2 students from one high school could be admitted to Stanford?
Okay, so my dad already gave like a little bit of this talk where he talked about kind of uh, what happened with like me wanting to go to like a public high school versus and for those of you who speak English, like me wanting to go to a public high school versus my parents wanting me to go to this high school which was like partnered with this college, and so basically it was very academic oriented. There were little if any extracurriculars. It was the equivalent of like a prep school almost. So in my opinion, I think that I mean, I turned out fine. I think that it's really more dependent on the student themselves. While in public school, there might not be as many like apparent opportunities just handed on a platter by the school itself. Like I know a lot of private schools will just be like, oh, you should do this, this, and this, and you automatically get in. That's like what private schools will do. Even though I didn't have that opportunity necessarily, I think that through my own like self-determination, I was able to find these opportunities myself. So it's really just 100% based on the student itself and how much they're willing to try to excel. And what was the other question?
Second part was, is it true that only 1 or 2 students from one high school would be admitted to Stanford in each given year?
I will. There's no like limit on like how many students they'll take from a high school. The reason why like most people think that's the case is just that Stanford is very selective, so it's very hard for even one person to get into these schools. Like for example, I know some schools in the Valley where like 3 people will get into Stanford, or like there's some schools where like a lot of very smart people go into like magnet schools where like 5 people will go to Stanford, and that's not necessarily like because the magnet school is something special so much as the students themselves are very special and they work very hard. And so it's really just based on like your application itself. Admissions officers don't know how many people got in from your school. They're just looking at your application.
Yeah. And so Alper wants to know what Erik likes to do when he was 7 to 10 years old. Did he play video games?
We didn't have too many video games. I think mostly just because money was a little tight, so we didn't necessarily have too many video games, which is honestly fine. But I did like definitely from like once I got a computer, I definitely played some video games. I also like I just like did other things that I liked. I liked origami personally. It's like kind of like I was definitely a nerd as a kid, I do admit, but like I like to do origami. I like to do some other things. But yeah, like I just did what I thought was fun. I guess nothing too special, I think. Okay, let's look at some of the questions that's coming in. Okay, I'm going to answer the question right at the beginning. Did you find that your upbringing as an Uyghur and you are being part of the Uyghur community has helped with the application? I think that it's like being part of the Uyghur community is just something that's like part of me. It's not something that like helped my application or hurt it. It's just like it's part of me. There's no like there's nothing else to say about it more than it's like it's part of my identity. And so without that, like I wouldn't be me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And like I think Stanford, I believe that Stanford admitted me for who I am. So I do think that it was a part that played, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like it's just something that is just integral to my identity, and it's something that's integral to so many other Uyghurs' identity. And so you can't like necessarily forget about that because it's part of you. I hope that answers that question. Do you think going to another country to study will help with the application? If you mean like go to a country for like 2 weeks to like volunteer for like some random organization, I don't think so, just because that's like not something you're committed for. But if it's like something that you're actually committed for, like for example, you started an organization which helps out international students abroad and like helps educate them, then that thing might align with that like sort of goal that you're trying to achieve. And so it's really just a case by case situation. But if it's like something where you believe like, oh, if I get sent to like this country for 1 month for some esteemed program, I don't think that that's necessarily going to provide an edge to your application. It doesn't hurt to do it, but really, I believe that universities and admissions officers want to see you be committed towards the things that you do and not just like a one-on, one-off thing.
I can speak to this question also as well about like doing one-off thing. Mushu iltimos qilganda bir narsadan ehtiyot qildiki, bir ishni ham qildim deb shu resumening toshqizish uchun emas, bir ishni qildim chunki bu ishga men bak qiziqatdim, bundan ko'ngil bilatdim. Anikin bu ishni men mayoqda, masalan, maktabda modarasini o'qidim, mushunga qiziqdim. Men bir misolni beray. Bir o'quvchim bor, o'zi mushu finance, moliya, iqtisodga bak qiziqdi ekan. Shuning bilan bu o'ttir maktabdagi vaqtida shu maktabda bir moliya iqtisod klub darsini anikin shunda yaxshi ko'ribdi. Undan keyin bir klub quribdi. Undan keyin bir non-profit organization qurib, yo'qsa bir torbat qurib, undan keyin shu o'ttir maktab o'quvchilariga financial literacy'ni o'rgatma deb, qanday qilib bolalarga investment o'rgatma, o'ttir maktab o'quvchilariga qanday qilib mushtaga iqtisodning qanday aylanadiganligini tushuntirma deb, mushta bir torbat qurib, ashuni o'zining saboqdoshlariga educate qilib, o'zining saboqdoshlarini shu to'g'risida bu ishni qilibdi. Undan keyin Stanfordga iltimos qilganda o'qimoqchi bo'lgan kasbi iqtisod. Ondan keyin mening darsini olganda yozgan maqolasimi iqtisod. Demak, bunida nimani ko'rdik ekanmiz desanglar, bu bolaning har qanday odam ko'rgan aman paranglashgan amonlar qattiq iqtisodga, o'sha financial marketga bak qiziqadiganligini ko'rdik ekan. Shuning bilan bu qilgan ishlarning hammasida bir tutash turadigan yip bor ekan deb mushuni bakroq ko'rdik ekan. Bunda bo'lsa, haqlan bak qoyil bo'ldi ekan bunda bolalarga. Okay.
Yeah, I think that summarizes it very well. Why did you choose computer science and what's so good about it, in my opinion? Okay, so I think this kind of brings me back to when I was little, actually. So I was introduced to computer science at a very young age. My dad did computer science. I had family friends who also did computer science that they introduced me to. I remember Scratch.mit, which is like, it's like, you know, the block for people who know computer science, it's like block coding for like kids, and it's like very fun, it's like for just something for kids. And I think I just like that, and it kind of stuck to me. There's nothing like, I wasn't attracted to it based off its like salary, although that is a very nice part of liking computer science, and I do admit it is pretty great. But I just like computer science because of like the numerous things that I can do with computers, really. Like, there's such a boom with artificial intelligence, and there's really just, you can do anything with computers, I believe. Like, that's really where the world is heading, and I feel like I can make the most impact with computer science, and so that's why I'm interested in computer science. Any specific area that I'd be super interested in? I guess artificial intelligence. I've been like learning more about artificial intelligence, and I really like it. It's definitely like pretty advanced math-wise, but I'm learning, and I guess that's what college is for me to learn about these interests. But my interests are changing a lot. Like, for example, I don't right at the start of college, I was like, oh, I'm going to get into a startup. As soon as I'm done with college, I'm going to like be a CEO. But now I'm not so sure anymore. Maybe I want to be like a CEO. Maybe I want to do research and eventually get a PhD with AI safety. Like, and I think that's what's so great about college. You can explore so many different avenues. You can explore so many different things. And I hope that in the next 4 years, I can explore more.
All right. Thank you, Erik. Rahmat. Unda olsa bir yarim soat bo'lib qolibdi. Shunga hozir mushu abay deganga o'xshash duttadan 2 payda chapasang. Anigin chapirib bo'lgan dutta muzikani anglab bo'lgandan keyin agar ko'pchilikning yana savoli bo'lsa, aniki ma parangni yana davomlashtirishni xohlaydiganlar qilib, endi ma 1 soat deganlarni 1 yarim soat so'zib o'tdik. Andan keyin tushib ketadiganlar tushib ketsa, mushta davomlashtirsa qanday bo'lar faoliyatning davomini? Okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Yes.
Yanlışsın.
Okay. Bu hanımın ismi Sidir or bunun ismi Hükümet.
Can you tilt your camera a little bit lower so that we can see the full? Yeah.
Let me also scoot back more.
Yeah.
Is that
Perfect. Yes.
And I'm still learning, so I'll do the best I can. I hope you enjoy.
Bir qizga qilib qo'yib. Ben yana bir hozirgi Erikning chog'ini bir qisqacha tushuntirib qo'yay. Ma muzika biz vatandan chiqqan ko'pinchalarimiz anglab boqmagan deb o'ylayman. Men anglabman ekan. Bu naqshchi Saniyam İsmail xonim o'rgatdi. Ularning deyishicha bu Uyg'urlarning qadimiy muzikasi o'xshaydi. Bu ustida texmo izlanish olib berib o'tibdi. Hamda shuning notasini bir yerdan burun o'qiyotgan vaqtida bir yerdan ko'chirib olgan ekan. Shu bo'yicha o'zi o'rganib, Erikka o'rgatdi. İsmi Sidir deydi. Uni hamda hukumatmi deb qo'ydi ekan. Mushtaq bir muzika ekan bu.
And I think a lot more of you will recognize this song. Rahmuqam birinci dastan merhuli.
Rahmat. Bagis Tamam, rahmat.
Men yana
Unda bo'lsa, ko'pchilik eng oxirida xulosalaydigan bir gap bor shu. Endi maktabga kelgandan keyin bizning planimizda o'quvchilar klublarni qura oladi. Shu keyin klub qursa maktabdan pulni berdi. Endi shu planimizda shu Stanfordning bolalaridan bir azroq yig'ib, anondan keyin mesela Uyg'ur jamoatininki o'sha to'liq o'tirki bolalar bilan bunda o'zaro juplabchi ashtag'i bir mentor bo'ldigan, ashtag'i bunda maslahatlarni bergan bir ish bo'lsa, aloqalashadigan bir ulab qo'ysak, an bolalar asli Stanford degan bir anday emas, asli aloqalashib bo'ldigan bir yer ekanligini his qilsa, asharki odamlar bilan paranglashsa, endi mushular qilgan ishni men tirissam qilib bo'ldi ekan degan yerga anday hissiyat keltirish uchun bir planimiz bor. Şu planlarni bo'lganda sizlar bilan yana aloqalashamiz, yana uchurlarni yo'llaymiz. Bugungi faoliyat kelganinglarga rahmat. Eng oxirida shu hozir tugidi, endi tushib ketsanglar, agar konkretni shu bir yilning ichida iltimos qilatdik, bir muhim bir bunda savollar bor, tafsiliy savollar desak, shunda jamoat qilib qolsanglar, qolganlaringlarning kelganligiga rahmat. Keyin kurashguncha omon bo'linglar. Rahmat.
Salam, rahmat hammanglarga qatnashganlarga, Erikga, Qurbanjonga nihoyat yaxshi so'zlab berdinglar. Dutanim bek yaxshi berding, bek xush bo'ldik Erik. Endi jiqroq ma'vo West Coast'dagilar qatnashdik buningga. Endi ba'zi bolalarga East Coast tarafdagi maktablarga iltimos qilib qoldigan bir ishlar bo'lib qoldi. East Coast tarafdan Qaysar Harvardda o'qigan, uning ustiga Uyg'ur bolalarga burun maslahat bergan. Azroq shu Kaliforniya tarafdagi ota-onalarga East Coast tarafga bolalar qiziqib qolsa, beradigan maslahatlar bo'lsa, paranglarni anglab qo'yilgan. Qaysar, bormisan?
Xo'sh, assalomu alaykum ko'pchilik. Qanaqaroq avvalinglar, yaxshimi? Baland to'dinglarmi? Mening ismim Qaysar Majid, ba'zilaringlar bilasizlar, bizning aloqamizni biladi. Aldı bilen men Qurbanjon Rozining o'g'li Erik Rozi, congratulations. You are an inspiration for our young people and you are giving a hope to our people. Thanks. I appreciate your topic, your discussion today. And also thanks to Mutallab rahmat, Mutallab bilan burun so'zlashgan. Mening Absalom akamningki kuyovlikka rahmat. Endi gapga kelsak, men Bostonda ayni vaqt kelgan vaqtda Bostonga kelgan, mishada yashayapman. Ben Harvard University'ninki aspiratoriya graduate school'da o'qigan, mishada yashayman. Adiljon deganga o'xshash bu yerda o'zingizlar MIT va Harvard va ikki top world class university bor. MIT'da bizningki bir necha farzandimiz o'qidi, bir qiz o'qishib bitirib ketdi, ya'ni bir qiz keldi buda, bir o'g'limiz o'qishib bitirib bitadi, hozir Yaponda ishlayapti. Harvardda ba'zi qadar mening statistika qilishimcha 8-9 dek bola o'qidi. 8-9 dek bola Harvardning necha yillik tarixida. Demak, biz kira olamiz. Men mau otishning tog'larida o'qib, shu eshak minib cho'ng olgan odam, mimsha kirib ketdim. Sizlar yosh bolalar kira olasizlar, bu bizning avlodlar. Ammo maktab kirish bir gap, bundan yaxshi bir odam bo'lish u hammadan muhim gap. Erik, men aytib so'yindim. I'm very proud of you. You are you are really a whole Uyghur. Like, look at your dutar playing dutar. I'm very proud of you. Good. Şuna abay Erik'ten bir so'rlarni so'radi. Ko'pchilik o'qish pulini qanday qilingni o'ssanglar deb 150 mingdan to'g'an bo'lsa, income 150,000 below free dedi. Harvard'dami shu, MIT'dami shu. Avval kirish muhim. Bu yerga bu maktablarga o'tish xuddi bir boshqa davlatning fuqarolariga nisbatan aytgan vaqtda Amerikaning pasportini olgandek, Zimbabvening pulini olgan qaragan vaqtda Amerikaning dollarini tutgan o'xshash bir gap. Ya'ni shu maktablarga kirish. Kirgandan keyin har xil turli fondlar bor, uni olib ketgili bo'ladi. Men so'yingan yerim, men topda bir 40 dak odam bor ekan, ota-onalar, o'quvchilar bor ekan. Bizning kishilarimiz shu ma'rifga, haqiqatan oliy ma'rif, sifatli ma'rifga ko'ngil ota-onalarimiz bizda ko'ngil bilayapti, bolalarimiz ko'ngil bilayapti. West Coast'dagi kishilar mushtarablarga kelib iltimos qilsanglar biz qarshi olamiz. Biz East Coast'dagi bolalarning A tarafga bag'ini men jiq anglab ketmadim, ammo har qachon bizningki ko'nglimiz, uyimizning ishlari nayt ochiq sizlarga, bolalarga we warmly embrace you, all of you, whoever coming from West Coast to Harvard or MIT. Shuning bilan birlikda men gapni qisqa qilay, barliq ota-onalarga aytib ko'p rahmat. Men isminglarni ko'rdim, o'zinglarni ko'rmadim. Men Mutalibning ismini burun anglagan, Erikning dadasi Qurbanjon yo'q ekan bu yerda. Qaysar dadash salom aytdi deb.
Yaxshimi?
Qurbanjon Rozi yaxshi, muborak bo'lsin.
Rahmat.
Degan men Adiljon ta'kidnoma aytibdi ekan, shunga men bir qatnashib, sizlar bilan salomlashib, muboraklab, sizlarning o'g'linglarning, sizlarning faxringlarimiz butun Uyg'urning faxri. Mana shu to'g'ri yo'l. Bolalarimizni shunday danglik maktablarda o'qitib, danglik kasb egalari qilib, siyosiyon, korxonchi, doktor, shirkat quradigan shunday odam qilsak, istiqbolimiz bo'ladi. Mutallib birga hostlikni shunday yaxshi qildinglar. Rahmat. Assalomu alaykum, salom. Men hamsa hammalarga eng go'zal oliy tilaklarni tilash bilan birlikda yangi yilda bütün ishlarimizning, o'zimizning ishlarimizning, millatimizning ishlarining yaxshi bo'lishini tilash bilan so'zimni oxirlashtiraman. Rahmat.
Rahmat Qaysar. Biz tarafdan qizg'ilg'a o'qishlar bo'lsa, seni ko'rsatib qo'yamiz unda bo'lsa.
Bo'ladi, chapaq. Shu bunda danglik maktablarga iltimos qilganda bular asosli why would we accept you? There are many candidates, plenty of candidates. Why we would accept you? Deydigan shuni ashi distinguished bir savollar tushdi. Uyg'urlikqa did it play a role? And it's going to play a role. Ben Harvard'ning vice president bilan ko'rishgan bo'ldi 11-oyda. Ashna dedim men bu shu Harvard'ning prezidenti Beijing borgan vaqtda Abdurim O'tkirning she'rini o'qib, Uyg'urlarning masalasini azroq anglatdi. Shunga men rahmat deb xat yozsam, vice president ko'rishdi. Keyin Harvard Crimson'da bu to'g'risida bir yozmam chiqdi. Meningki. Shu odam bilan ko'rishgan vaqtda dedim hamda odam deganda minnatdorlik, grateful bo'lish kerak. Shunami bu işte bizning Uyg'ur o'quvchilarning sonini ko'paytirmasam bo'ladi degan desam, let them apply. Admission is tough. You know that dedi. Desam, but you know, let them apply deydi. Şunu apply qilish kerak. Agar biz bir chiqib qushni otmay turib, margan emasligimizni qanday qilamiz? Let's try. Unda iltimos qilsin.
Shu. Rahmat Qaysar aka.
Ma'qul. Amatbanglar.
Rahmat, hammanglar shu. Shu bugungi bu faoliyatni deyishganda shu qanday ishlarni qilsak, shu hammalar uyda qisib o'tirib qoldik, hammalar sirqimi chiqolmaymiz. Qanday qilsak ham jamoatga yaxshi bir manfaat kelar degan ishlarni o'zaro brainstorm qilib, shu Odilkam mushta bo'lganki, mush jamoatga hammalarning ota-onaning kallasi o'ylaydigan bir ishmi shu. Shuni bir deyishib baxsan qanday dedi, shuning bilan bir uning aloqalashib Erik ma shunda xo'shallik bilan qabul qildi talabni. Shuning bilan bugungi mushta bir faoliyat keldi. Rahmat hammanglarningki qatnashib, qo'llab, quvvatlab qilganinglarga.
Bir gap mutallifkam sizlarga nihoyatda cho'ng tabriklarim. Stanford University'da o'qitishgansizlar. Oson emas, not easy. Yaxshi. Chaqnagan quyosh damdiq. Anlayolmay qoldi so'ngni, gapimni. Sizlarga muborak bo'lsin.
Rahmat.
Men hammanglarni Allohga omonat etamsizmi?
Xo'sh. Adilka.
Endi shu o'zimizning shaxsiy so'raydiganlari bo'lsa so'rab nim qilsak, o'zingni qilayver. Sizga
yana 10 minutgacha ochiq tutay shu Webex roomni.
Mening bir qo'yadigan gapim shu boya Qurbanjonmi so'zlab berdi, ama Erik o'zimi dedi ancha-muncha qanday cho'ng olgan jarayonlarni. Qaraganda shu ota-ona bilan bolaning connectioni bek muhimkan. Kichigidan bir xil do'stlik, o'zaro aloqa qila oladigan bo'lib, mesela shu bir bilan yozdigan chaqlar bir-biriga o'zaro nimasi bor-da, bir xil ishonishadi. Magamni qilsa Erik mi darhol javob beradi degandek. Bu bir muhim ishkan, shunga kichigidan bolalarni shuliqi o'zaro paranglashib oladigan bir holat keltirish muhimkan deb his qildim men.
Mutallibcha mening bir savolim bor. Bu balkim Odiljon Qurbanjonkamlar yaxshiroq javob berishi mumkin. Maktablarningki elementary school bilamdi yoki middle school, high school hamsiningki scores bor. Grade school.com'da kirsak 6, 7, 8, 9 deb chiqib berdi numarni. Nurg'unlarimiz bolalarimizni public schoolda o'qitamiz. Shu numarda qanday qilish kerak? Masalan, ba'zi rayonlarda maktabning nimasi 4 ya 5 yoki bo'lmasa ba'zi rayonlarda 6, 7. Shularningki bolalarningki shu üst betilishiga yoki shundaq universitetlarga kirishiga qanday ta'sir ko'rsatadi? Qurbanjon qanday javob berdi ekan bunga? Maktabningki shu scores-chi elementary schooldan tortib high school nimagacha?
Hamda Erikninki nimasi qargan vaqtida buning o'qigan maktablarining hammasi asosiyatdan 6, 7, 8 atroflaridagi maktablar. Shu o'zimiz tug'an o'rindagi eng normal bir alayidimi skordagi undaq maktablar emas. Shundaq bir maktablar-chu. Shuni qaraganda hamda ancha bak cho'ng ta'sir qilib ketmaydigan o'xshaydi deb o'ylab qoldik o'zimizcha.
Men azroq qistirib qo'ysam, shu keyin bek nima bo'lib ketdi bu gaplar, masalan, school ranking muhimki bu deb. Biz Aykizlarni boshida o'qitgan chaqdimi, biz bir yangi kelgan chaqda u vaqtda qaysi maktab yaxshi emas deganini bilmaymiz. Bir maktab kirgan ish qilib, boshlang'ich maktabga. Shundan keyin o'rgansak, u maktab 3 mi 4 mi oyindagi numarachi rankingda. Lekin biz shunday yaxshi ko'rgan o maktabni. O faoliyatlarimiz shunday yaxshi chiqdi. O keyin borgan maktabini 8 yilmi o'qidim, 9 yil oyinda yaxshi deb nim qildi, lekin unda muhim bevosita nim qilib ketmaydi. Faoliyatlari ham jihatlardan bek ta'sir qilib ketmaydigan. Umumiy masalan bolalar faqat o'zini bilolmay, mundaq o'zini kontrol qilolmaydigan bolalarga ahamiyat olamdiki, lekin ma bolalarga sal ota-onalar yetakchilik qilib qildigan, o'zlari sal asuşini bildigan bolalar bo'lsa, menimcha bu maktabning rankinglari bekmi muhim emaskin deb o'ylab qoldim. Eng muhimi shu o'qiyotgan maktabda amon shu o'zlarining saboqdoshlarining orasida uzib chiqsa, oldiga chiqsa, shu muhimki bolalarning o'zining o'sib yetilishiga yaxshi.
Bak Erik'nin bir gepi var. Hiç orada olmaz.
Just to comment on one more thing, there's pro and cons honestly to both going to like a school with a good rating and a school with a not as good rating. For example, like you could look at it from the perspective of, oh, if I get to a good school, I'll like go to a great university. But you can also look at it from a perspective of, oh, if I go to like an average school, then I'll be competing against like less like I'll have less competition. So if I can show that I really excel in this like not as amazing school, even though like honestly the great school system is like a lot of it's just based on socioeconomic factors, but besides all of that, it's really just a matter of showing how like you can excel even if you don't go to a school that's as amazing in words. Yeah.
Rahmat. Hammanglarga rahmat.
Hamda vaqtinglar bo'lsa, hozir 1-2 minut mushu Erikning dutta o'rganishga qiziqib kelishiga balkim qiziqayotganlaringlar bo'lishi mumkin. Qandaqlarcha dutta o'rganishga qiziqib qoldi bu degandekcha shu to'g'risida men biroz so'zlab baqsam
so'zlab turing. Vaqtimiz bor. Qurbonjon aka.
Bu ben bizning oilamizdami amaliyotda mening ya dadam opamlar hech qanday muzika chaladigan bundaq oilama emas. O'zimmi mush Amerika kelguncha bir duttanim tutib boqmagan ekanman o'ylab qolsam. O'zim chamayman-ku. Lekin men kelgandan keyin hamda bir vatanga bo'lgan seg'inish bo'ladi-ku. Şoňlaşqa naqşyny bak yaxşı gördüm özüm anlaşyny-ço. Anlaşyny yaxşı gördüm. Şu arlyqlarda bir dutta algan bolsa, şu özüm naqşyny yaxşı gördüm ekenmen, ügün baksam ügünälenmenmi, muş ballar bolsunmu, bir täsir bolup qalsa, keyin kunlikde ölüp ketip qalsak, muş ballarımız esleýdigan bir nima, muş dadam bir uzun sipiba bir nima tutup tırın qılatdy. Dep aşını bolsam eslep qala degan bir oýda bolup juratdim. Şu Avstraliyadaki Şöhret Kamny bilsizler, dutta naqş etip dutta çalıp qılgan. Şu Şöhret Kam Amerikaga bir faoliyatga kelip duttlarından birini taşlatgan soğuk qıptı. Bunun öýde esiqlik tutdy o duttaço. Şonuň bilen bir güni kirip sorap aldım elaki duttasyny. Men bir ügünäý depço. Önki öýge akirip şu wagtlarda iPhone'lar ýok wagtlar. Bu ağinamga şu telefon qilib vatandagi ağinamga. Telefonda şunu tanışashni öğrendimde. Ayarını bassam chala dirang qila depço. Ashna qilib tanışashni öğrenip bir ikki o'zim ilqi etadigan naqshamga uyab yerni tepib oldim ilqi nimisini. Ağanını-ço. Aşınları bilmem hazırgacha şunchaliklar. Onundan artıq sevedim, işip ketmedim. Amma şunu aş öýde keç, kiçik tırnışıp jüdümde muşular kiçik wagtida. Bular kirgan vaqtida attay qilib ba'zi vaqtida-ço, muşlarning qulog'iga azroq bo'lsin sinib qolsa birdan bo'lib qoladi debço. Shundaq shudam undan keyin izlanib, uyab notlarni izlab tepib, ashundaq bir ikki muzikani xili yaxshi chalalaydigan holatga kelib qoldim. Bu ilqi naylarni chelib, notalarni o'rganib, xili bir yuqori saviyaga kelganda tuyuqsiz bir kuni shu uyda duttani elib, bu tinchlayotdi-da, bu sirtimda kirsam tinchlayib o'tiribdi. Bu duttani o'rganganmanmi ya desam, voy o'rgansam o'rganma deydi. Va bundaq o'rgan deb qildim. O'zim bildiganlarimni padining o'rinlarini, bundan ko'rsatdim-da, shunday ko'rsatdim. Bu pianoda çalgan bir notalarni tepadi, shu bo'yicha ashunaq dastlabki asoslarini turg'izib turgan. Hamda arliqda o'zinglar bilsizlar, Erkin doktor Erkin Kamning o'g'lining xatmi to'yiga shu yak berib, şu yerda sizlar bilan mutallab inimiz, undan keyin Erpa inimiz bilan tanışdım. Erpa inimiz o kuni duttani shundaq yaxshi chaldi. Shuning bilan u Erpaning dadasi bilan men Yaponiyada birga turibdi ekanchu, shu vaqtda Erponni tondim-da. Voy, dadam bilan shunday yaxshi o'tgan. O kuni men bir muzik chiqardim-ku deyman, naqsh aytib. Shuni o'ylab, men mishinchilik chaldim, birini bilaman, bundan ortiqni bilmayman, ammo sen payz chaldi ekansan, menga o'rgatmasang bo'lmaydi deblam. Eslib oldim bu Erpangachu. Erpanga eslib oldim, shu qaytib voy chatoq yo'q aka, men o'rgataman dedi bu. Qaytib kelgandan keyin mana shu aytsizlar bunga Xallaylonninkini chip evet. Buyruqda bu. Çelip evet desem şunu da bo'ldi aka deb çelip evet de. U hamda mening anglash sezimim sal tasdil tutadi ekan menda buni. U taskeldi, uni anglaplam nim qilish uchun. Undan keyin Erpanga yan dedim. Voy men bo'lib parcha astara qilib ajdaq evetmisam ben o'g'lamaydi ekan menda. Ajdaq qilib chaqizdim. Şunu bilan onun o bir neçe muziklarni ajdaq evetdi. Evetgandan keyin Erikmi o'rgandi uninchi. Shunlashqa bu Erikning duta o'rganishiga asos solgan Erpan inin deb o'ylayman. Erpan inin shu munosabat bilan ko'pdan ko'p rahmat aytaman. Undan keyin bu shu notlar bo'yicha birlashtirib yuribchi, ashtaq qilib qiziqib qoldi. Endi hozir Saniya ustoz Saniya naqshchi Saniya Qozog'istondagi. Shuni ustoz tutib o'rganyotdi. Mushundaq sabablardan qiziqib qoldi-da. Uyda bir dutta bo'lish kerak, hamda qiziqtirish uchun cho'qimchi bu dutta bo'lmasa qiziqadigan bir nim bo'lmaydi. Shu sababni qilib qo'yib, ashundaq tirishib yurib, hargiz biz men uygan degan gapni men chiqirib boqmadim. Mush qo'liga ilib tirinqigacha dutta uyganamsa, dutta uygan degan gapni deb boqmadim-da. O'zi ash duttani ilib tirinqigandan keyin undan keyin men shu gapni chiqardim-da. Uyganamsa desam, voy uygunima chatoq yo'q deb shundan boshlandi. Ama gapni degim kelib qoldi.
Rahmat Qurbonjon aka. Men degan gapingiz menda bir ikki xil metafor o'qitish vakancha ota-ona bo'lishni. Birsi bog'vanga o'qishtir ekan, birsi yog'ochiga o'qishtir ekan. Men yog'ochi bu uslubdagi ota-onalar ash bolamni men uyab chiqarib, mushundalam qilsam bo'ladi deb qallisida qanday o'ylagan bo'lsa, shuni yog'ochiga uyab chiqardi ekan. Ondan keyin men bog'van degan, endi bu bol degan bir daraxt, giyohga o'xshaydi. Bu buran chiqishi mumkin, yomg'ir yog'ishi mumkin, oftob chiqishi mumkin. Men u nurg'ulg'an tabiiy sharoitlarni kontrol qila olmayman. Ammo men qila oladigan ishim sug'urib, mushunaqa o'g'it berib, mushunaqa bir sharoit yaratib berish deb. Degan gapingiz menga shuni bak eslatdi. Mushta sharoitni yaratib berib, endi shu qanday unib chiqadi, qanday tizilsamda ostimi, shuning endi men bakroq yana tabiat bilan beqish ikkilisini tang o'ttirib qo'yish. Rahmat o'tani biz bilan o'rtoqlashganingizga.
Mumkin yana bir narsa esim kelib qoldi, uni deb qo'ying. Bu Eriklar kichik vaqtida biz hammamiz ota-onalar o'ylaymiz, hamda bir tantarbiya turi bilan bu badan tan sog'lomligi uchunchi shug'ullansa yaxshi bo'ladi deb o'ylaymiz. Har turli narsalar beramiz, hamda hammalar shunda qilayotgan bo'lishinglar mumkin. Men shunda qilganda buni futbolga berib baqdim, unga berib baqdim, bunga berib baqdim. Bu bir hafta o'ynaydi, uniki qiziqmaydi-da. Ko'pincha narsalar qiziqmaydi. Lekin qiziqmagan narsani o'ynadi, men zo'lmadim hargizchi. Ajnaq, lekin turini o'zgartib turdim-da, oningga berib baqdim, ajnaq bir nima so'zlashga berdim buni-chi. Bilsam bu uning qiziqib qoldi. So'zlashga. Shuning bilan ashini ching tutdik. Asosli sog'lomlik uchun qilgan tantarbiya turi so'zlash bo'ldi. Bizning shu uyimizning qishidagi bir maktabninki usti yipiq bir so'zlish o'rni bor ekan, shu yerda o'gitadi ekan bular. Buni o'gitib bir mavsum o'rgangandan keyin bu yaxshi suning ustida putining kuchi bilan 1 minutdak laylab tura olgan bolalar top o'ynaydigan, suning ustida top o'ynaydigan komandasi kira oladi ekan. Bu shuni kirgancha kirib shu water polo o'yinda nimada ash komandasida. Hamda bunaqa ashnada cho'qim natija qozonadigan bir yaxshi chempion bo'l degan talabni qo'ymadik. Faqat berib qatnashib shu so'zlib o'zining salomatligi uchun, sog'lomlik uchun qilsangiz bo'ldi dedik. Ammo o tema kirgandan keyin haftada 4 kunda shu kuniga 1,5 soatdan 2 soatgacha mashq qildirdik bularni. Shunda qattiq. Hamda shu vaqtida ashak opirib shu nimalargacha mashqlarga qatnashtirib, buning tan sog'lomligi uchun qilgan bir sport turi shu so'zlish bo'ldi deb qarayman. To'liq siz o'rta maktabgacha shuni davomlashtirdi. bende anda benning mayliqi maktab aptapda chiniqirgan bo'lganki u yani tantarbiya turi kirdi ekanda bu. Shuning bilan cho'qim bolalarda bir tur bo'lsa-mu o'zining sog'lomligi uchun tantarbiya turi uchun shunday qilish muhim ekan deb o'ylab qoldim.
Rahmat.
Bence benim bir sualım vardı.
Qandarak ahvol yaxshimi?
Siz hammalar yaxshimi? Nima ko'p rahmat, yaxshi so'zlab berdi o'g'lingiz. Bizning yo'lda vaqtdan keyin bizga shunda foydaliqda bu. Sizlar Qozog'istondan degan dutta o'g'itayotgan ayol. O'quvchimi olam degan ya ular ya sizdan shu birla balo o'g'itayotgan deya.
O saniyam hamda nimalar Facebook'larda chiqadi-ku, o'zining ashada o'g'itayotgan bolalari bor ekan. Shu o'rinda turibchi, amaliyot shunday o'g'itish ularga nisbatan qolaylik, oson bo'ldi-chu. Hamda ma Erikninki notalarni bilganligi. Men oldi bilan Saniya bilan aloqalashdim-da. O'g'lim xili chalalaydi, shu sizning bakrak o'rgangisi bor debchi. Shuning bilan men bir o'z bilan ko'rishib boqay deb, bular onlayn shu nimada ko'rishdi. Ko'rishib, buni chag'izib, notlarni qanchalik qayerga bo'ladi, hamma narsalarni sinab ko'rgandan keyin shuning bilan bo'ldi, men o'rgansam bo'ladi ekan deb nima qildi? Haftada bir qatam nima qildi? Shu qishliq ta'til vaqtidan foydalanildi. Buni o'rganishni boshlagan vaqtim shu ta'tilga chiqqandan boshlab o'rganyotdi. Hozircha onlaynda o'rgatayotgan yana boshqa bolalar bormi? Uni uqmadim, lekin men bilishimcha shu Erikniki.
Agar mumkin bo'lsa, nima usullarni bizga ma'lum bersangiz.
Bo'ldi. Ben shu nima o'zida so'rgan o'tganda-chu bir do'stlarimiz so'rganda, voy Erikning Facebook chiqarib qo'yganda ko'rib, voy biznimi bolalarimizga o'rgatsak bo'pti-ekan deb shundaq dedi. Shuning bilan men Saniya bilan aloqalashgandim. Mushtaq davatida sizning aloqalash nimangizni bersam bo'lamdi desam, bo'ladi, mening WhatsApp nomerimni shundaq so'rganlar bering dedi. Men shu ashqa sizlarga avat bersam bo'ldi, agar kerak deganlar bo'lsa.
Bo'ldi, rahmat.
Biz bilan aloqalashib nima qilsanglar bo'ldi.
Bo'ldi, rahmat. Inanma bir qizim musiqaga qiziqdi-chu. O'ziga deb baxmadim, dutta deb, uyda duttadan birisi bor. Mumkin bo'lsa, chida.
Shu biz ota-onalar shu ash taraflardan yordam qilib o'qituvchilarni tepishib degandekchu, shundaqlik qilib beraylik ekanmiz bu bolalarga. Undan ortiq bu dars o'tadigan o'qituvchi bo'lgandan keyin.
To'g'ri.
Oturapsan? O'rin almashdik.
Erik, do you still playing with the rubric cube?
Not really.
Brother is playing now, huh?
A little, yeah. For those who don't know, when I was little, I used to play the Rubik's Cube a lot. I don't really anymore.
Yeah. I remember you.
Be interesting.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions? In general, like any questions, I'll try my best to answer.
I guess that's no. Unda olsa, amsi oxirlashtiramdiq bugungi faoliyatni. Amsi yana bir qatim rahmat Erik. Shunday yaxshi so'zlab berding. Hammanglarga shunday foydali uchurlarni ta'minlab berding. Undan keyin Erik o'ziniki email adresini qo'yib qo'ydi bu yerda. Biror savollar bo'lsa yana o'quvchilardan so'raydigan ma'ni so'ranglar. Men o'zimnikini qo'yib qo'yay. İltimas qildigan g'ayt savollar bo'lsa yoki maqola to'g'risi azroq yordam kerak bo'lsa, so'rasanglar bo'ldi. Ikkilimizdan uchuri bor aloqalash usuli. Unda bo'lsa, rahmat hammanglarning qatnashganinglarga, keyingi qatim ko'rishib omon bo'linglar. Yangi yilinglarga muborak bo'lsin. Oldin Allah.
Bo'ldi, rahmat hammanglar mutallib. Erik, Qurbanjon, hammanglar qatnashganlarga ko'rish omon bo'layli.
Rahmat, aka, siz mush aqsabdan qattiq qo'llab berdingiz. Sizga rahmat.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope that I've been at least a little bit helpful, and thank you for Matalka for helping organize this. He's been a big help for the Uyghur community as a whole, and I'm really grateful to have made at least a little bit of contribution towards the Uyghur community.
Right. Rahmat. Rahmat. Bo'ldi desa, aman bo'lma. Okay. Xo'sh. Xo'sh, Xudoyim omonat.